Today we're going to talk about fixing underexposed or overexposed photos and the use of the histogram. This is going to also touch on your camera also and ways to even keep from getting it underexposed or overexposed before you even take that photo. I often recommend to ladies to quickly adjust their levels on their photos when I'm making suggestions to change layouts, and I find that when they're not in Photoshop Elements, they don't have the tools to make these changes quickly. But I really love Photoshop Elements and how it is able to quickly and easily fix exposure. I have here a photo that I purposefully underexposed, and now it's important to kind of understand the difference between overexposed and underexposed. They're so, of course, close, both beginning with vowels and ending in the word exposed, that it's so easy to just say, huh? I don't get it. Which is which? To help understand which is which, think of it in the way that if your photo is underexposed, it's not exposed to the light enough. And so if your photo's not exposed to the light enough, it's going to be dark, as in this example here on my desktop. I have here a photo that is overexposed. If a photo is overexposed, it's exposed too much to the light, and in this case it's going to be very light. I'm going to go back to the underexposed photo, and you'll find that most often the majority of your photos are going to be underexposed. If I hit Control L on my keyboard, it's going to bring up the levels box, and you can see here a histogram. This complete box covers the histogram, but as you can see, the graph is only on the left side of the histogram. This represents is a classic representation of an underexposed photo. Let's go to the overexposed photo and compare the histogram. You can see here that the graph is completely to the right side of the histogram, and so this is classic of an overexposed layout photo. We can go now to the one that is more of an ideal exposure, and if I Control L to bring up the levels box, you can see here that the black portions, we call it a mountain. The mountain is in the center. We do have some extra low areas to either the right or the left, but those areas are even. This mountain, could come down more directly to the edge, but this is actually a very ideal histogram here. Sometimes you'll hear the mountain called bell-shaped. If this came up more perfectly like a bell along the top edge, this would be even more of a perfectly exposed photo, but there's actually going to be no perfectly exposed photo, and this one is actually pretty close. Let's go back to the underexposed layout, and sometimes in other programs people will suggest fixing the photos by fixing the shadowing and the lighting, and we can do that here in Photoshop Elements by going to the Enhance drop-down menu, Adjust Lighting, and then Shadows and Highlights. You can move the sliders, but most often I find this auto correction when I am correcting shadows and highlights to be perfect just as it comes up. So I can click OK, and let's go back and look at that histogram again. You can see that it changed the photo, but it really did not change the histogram. And so the programs that just offer fixes in the shadows and the lighting are really not always the best fixes. I hit the undo button so we could go back to our original photo. Now let's go ahead and bring up the Control L again, and I'll show you how. Let's move this over so you can watch the photo. How to fix this. You have three markers here. This marker here is for the black, and this one's for gray, and this one's for white. You have an area down here with some sliders that you can move to, but in general I don't use those very often. And just grab the white marker and hold down with your left button on the mouse and drag it right over to where the mountain begins. And now you have corrected, with just one slide of a slider, your underexposed photo. And that is all that needs to be done the majority of times on the photo. So if you just hit Control L, move the slider, hit OK right in the middle of your layout, it's satisfactory for your layout. And let's go and look now. Let's peek at what this has done to the histogram after we've changed it. And so we're going to open up the levels box again, and you can see now that where it was previously all to the left, it's much more even, spread out from side to side. However, you will notice all of these empty lines that are going up and down. So this does do some permanent damage to the photo, so it's very important that you make these changes only in a photo that you've brought into your layout. Do not make these changes to your original photos because they do damage some of the pixels. But this is just perfect for what you need for purposes of your layout. So I'm going to hit the undo button so that goes back to the original underexposed. For overexposed photos, you do the same thing. Control L. Only in this case, rather than grabbing that white slider, you're going to grab the black one and move it all the way to the edge of the mountain. And you can see that also helps to fix the photos. You can, if you feel you need to, move around the gray one. You know, sometimes I have to move around all three. But basically what you're doing is taking it and grabbing it, if it's under or overexposed, until it's to the edge of the mountain. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. Let's talk about snow layouts. Here's one of my treacherous tree falling yesterday in the ice storm. And what is so common is that photos will be underexposed in the snow. And the reason for this is that your camera is detecting that there is so much light based on the reflection of the sun on the bright snow everywhere that it needs to adjust the levels downward. And so photos in the snow are always underexposed, and if you just simply hit your Control L, you can see this one's not too bad, and I just have to move this slider right over to the edge of the mountain, and did you see my photo magically get better? So if you don't do anything special with your camera settings while taking photos in the snow, almost every photo you're going to need to make that adjustment. Let's hit undo on that. I believe under the enhanced drop down menu somewhere here is an auto levels, and if you click on it, it automatically fixes those levels for you. For me, that's not quite as good as when I manually adjusted it, but you can also go and just hit that, and you can see that the auto levels is Shift Control L on the keyboard, and so you could quickly make each of your photo layers active and just hit Shift Control L and very quickly fix all your snow photos at once. Let's go back down here. This is from Steve's Digicams. I grabbed this off of the internet. This is what in his review he has gotten some pictures of what my screens look like on my personal camera. Now I want you to note down here, this area here, I can see most often these numbers and this little symbol on the bottom of my camera as I'm taking pictures all the time. This is called light metering, and I have some arrows on the top of my camera, and I can hit them to the right or to the left, and it does change my light metering up or down. Now if I have the setting, you'll notice here, set on my camera, I can see a histogram, and most cameras will give you an option, most of the newer cameras anyway, to actually see that histogram. And so when I'm taking photos, if I have my histogram up, I can adjust the light metering, this over here, as I watch the histogram, and what I'm looking for is a more even from right to left histogram, and as I said, a bell-shaped, but I can adjust it back and forth until this looks right, and that will make for a good photo. I also have auto white balance settings. This is the basic setting, the default setting that most cameras come on, and most of the time it works well, but if your photos are not exposing right, I can go in there and actually change that to different kinds of lighting, such as overhead lighting when I'm indoors. There are 4 or 5 choices I have on my camera. Each camera is going to be different, and so you can go in there and change the white balance, and that too will help under or overexposure. There are quite a few manual or other automatic settings on cameras. You have to just go through your personal camera, get out that manual and read it. I have one that's called Snow and Snurf. So Snow and Surf, and that one is specifically set for taking photos out in the snow. I have some other settings that also affect the light metering and the white balance when taking the photos, and so you just need to get out there and play and learn what those settings do. But now that you understand what underexposure and overexposure are, you'll better be able to understand these settings on your camera. I want to point out right here in the middle of my screen as I'm looking at it, this is called spot metering, and I keep this on as my default. You'll notice how close my brackets are. I have changed that in my camera, and this is one of the best changes I ever made in my camera. These brackets by default are much further apart. What happens is when you hold down the shutter button on your camera halfway and it focuses, wherever you point those brackets to, the area in between those brackets is what is going to be light metered, or it's also going to focus in that area, but it's also going to light meter in that area, and that's what we're talking about right now. And so I could actually trick my camera by light metering, let's say, off of a tree when there's snow outside, and then moving my camera back into focus before continuing to hold down my shutter key to actually, shutter button to actually take that photo. And so by making that a smaller area, it's going to be easier to exactly light meter off of a specific area. I use this in many ways, and having the knowledge that that is where you're going to be light metering or focusing on in between those brackets on your camera will really make a difference when you're taking photos. And so I hope you've learned a lot. I hope to see you easily and quickly adjusting your levels on all your photos. It's something simple that you can do to fix your photos, especially a lot of scanned-in photos that were taken with older cameras that didn't have the technology to fix over or under exposure while taking the photo. Oh, I have forgotten. There are some other ways to fix exposure. I was looking at my notes on everything I wanted to cover as I was closing, and let's go ahead and get this underexposed layout back up. And there are some other ways to fix exposure, which especially on those old heritage photos I find this works really well. If you duplicate your layer, now you see I have two layers, and the one on the top, change it to multiply. Well, that's not right. We are underexposed, so I'm going to change that to a screen mode. And you can see I'm going to make the top one invisible. There's my original underexposed layer. You add the top layer with this screen blending mode, and you can see it has immediately fixed the photo. If it doesn't fix it enough, just duplicate that screen layer again, and you can see it fixed it even more. And that is really another great quick way to fix those layouts. Now, or those photos. Here's my overexposed photo, and I'm going to duplicate it and change the blending mode to multiply, and you can see that that immediately fixed the photo. And if I want, I can add another one, and it fixed it even further. And so when you have underexposed layouts, you can use the screen mode to fix it, or if you have overexposed photos, you can use the multiply mode to fix them. Often I'll get to playing and I'll use a combination of the two. You know, for instance, if I do this again, it might make it look a little better, but not quite. And so I'm going to change this multiply mode to screen mode, and you can see that in this case it didn't help. But sometimes having a combination of them stacked up really will help. You just have to play. We all love playing. Of course, remember too that you have this opacity slider over here. So if this change was just a bit too much, I can change the opacity on it, and look at that photo now, about right there. You can see how much that benefits, and you can go back and on all the layers and play with the opacity until you get just what you want to look for. And so that's another way of getting an ideal photo out of an over or an underexposed layout. And so I would love it if you would just share your results in the thread here in the forum, or ask any questions. But if you do play with this, just give us your before and after shots and share with us your results. That's how everybody learns. And so I will be watching the forum for your questions and results. And have a great day.